I'm told Bucky is on the line, so let's mic him up and pipe him into the studio and talk baseball with the legendary Mr. Bucky Dent. Bucky, it's Bob and Tony here in Eastern Connecticut. How are you, sir?
Hi, Bucky.
Hi. How you doing, guys?
Very good, Bucky,
Fine.
and we appreciate the honor to speak with you tonight, and hope everything is going well with you down in Florida.
Going good, my man. Everything is going good. Just standing here looking out over the lake.
Life is good. Life is good. Again, just some background. We touched upon it a little bit. Bucky played for 4 teams over a 12-season period. Tony, almost 1,400 games in his career. I counted at least 7 Hall of Famers that Bucky played with. He had over 1,100 hits in his career, 23 postseason hits. Of course, none more important than the shot at Fenway in 1978, which we'll talk to in depth. He hit .417 in the '78 World Series, which earned him the right to be called World Series MVP. And again, sixth pick in the '70 draft by the White Sox.
A very live draft.
Yes, it was, and by the White Sox. And Bucky, let me start by asking you going back to the days growing up in Georgia and Florida. When did you basically catch the baseball bug? And tell us about maybe some of your favorite teams and players when you were a kid.
Well, actually, I started kind of young, like everybody, about 7 years old. And my brother was actually my mentor. He's the guy that really taught me how to play sports. He was a former sport athlete in high school. And, he gave me my foundation for athletics. Actually, I liked football a lot better than I did baseball, and I played football more up until my senior year in high school, and I decided that, hey, these guys are pretty big, man. I think I have a better career playing baseball, so after we won the state championship, I committed to play at Dade North, where Mickey Rivers and Steve Carlton and a bunch of greats played. It was a great baseball school down in Miami, and I started my career there, and I got drafted out of high school by the Cardinals late because they thought I was going to play football. And then back then they used to have 2 drafts. They had a June draft and a January draft, which was secondary, which if you didn't sign in June, you went into that pool. So Cardinals drafted me again, number 1, in January, and I didn't sign. So I played my year of junior college, and the White Sox drafted me, and I wound up signing. And out of that draft, when I went over to Sarasota, there were some good players. I mean, there was guys like Gossage, Brian Downing, Jerry Harrison, guys like that. So they had a really good draft in 1970.
Yeah, and Bucky, I mean, at a very young age, you reached the majors, 21. You're playing on a White Sox team, and you're succeeding the great Luis Aparicio. It had to be kind of a daunting task at the time to you, or something you probably dreamed of, but at the time, as a youngster, had to be a daunting task.
Oh, yeah. Coming up, I moved through the minor leagues kind of quick. My first year, I went to Appleton. It was me and Gossage and Jerry Forster, and we all roomed together, and then I had to go in the military next year. So I missed the beginning of the season of '71. And then, of course, I was lucky. I played for the same manager for 3 years in a row, a guy named Joe Sparks, who wound up coaching for me when I was managing the Yankees. And, he kind of groomed us all. We had, on my one team, we had, Terry Forster, Gossage, myself, Jerry Harrison, Lamar Johnson, George Porta, Mark Johnson. I mean, we had some really, really good players. So we all kind of came up together, and, the White Sox seemed like they were going to have a bright future. But then they started trading some of them off. And, I wound up getting traded to the Yankees, which was my dream team growing up. Mickey Mantle was my hero. And of course, being able to go and put those pinstripes on for the first time, it was just awesome.
And as I told our viewers right before you called in, Bucky, we normally do a featured team on our show, and tonight we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of that '74 White Sox team that you played on. So that ought to be a lot of fun. Once we let you go, we're going to be talking. We usually give the roster. We talk about our memories. But that might have been your best year in the majors that year. You hit .274. You led the league in sacrifices. Second in the Rookie of the Year voting. Now, leading the league in sacrifices back then it was a big thing.
Sure.
You know, it's something that you probably took great pride in that would probably get lost today, but that must have been something you took great pride in, Bucky.
Well, that was a part of the game back then. You know, I mean,
right.
The shortstops that I came up with, the guys like Burleson and Mark Belanger and, Robin Yount was the first, he was like 19 years old when he came up, but, all of us, we kind of did the same things, Chuck Tanner groomed me to be a guy that, played a little bit of small ball, just make the plays at shortstop and do little things to help your team win. Yeah. And shortstop back then, that's what it was all about, Of course, I played this park was a huge park, and, not many home runs were hit out of there, but, that was our job back then. And, of course, shortstop kind of evolved, and I think in baseball, that's the one position that kind of evolved into not playing that kind of ball anymore to where it become more big guys like Cal Ripken, Jeter, A-Rod, guys that, get the ball in seats. So that's the one position that became more offensively, but when I played, that's what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, and Bucky could bunt, that's for sure.
For sure.
Yes, I could.
On the air with Bucky Dent. Tony, question for Mr. Dent.
And Bucky, good evening. It's a pleasure to have you, and it's great to talk with you. Bob and I were talking earlier about Chuck Tanner, and we both thought, of course, you knew him and you were in the clubhouse with him. We both kind of thought that at least during the time and years to come, he was a guy ahead of his time. Certainly didn't seem like your typical baseball manager. He was very articulate. He seemed to like people. And what was your impression of him?
Excellent teacher. He had a great coaching staff. Back then, it was a little bit different, when you came up to play in the big leagues, you had to know how to play the game, and if you didn't, the manager had the power to just get rid of you and send you back and tell you, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be played, go back and learn how to do it. But Chuck was a excellent teacher. I learned all of my fundamentals playing in the White Sox organization about little things. I had a great infield instructor by the name of Al Monchek. He taught me all the little integral parts of playing defense, like positioning, turning the double play, how to use my hands, how to, square up the field, and just be in the right place at the right time. But Chuck was ahead of his time as far as that. I mean, he was a fiery guy. He was a big guy. He wasn't afraid to get in your face, if he didn't think something was right. I really enjoyed playing for him, and like I said, I learned an awful lot of baseball playing for him.
And Bucky, you made it's appropriate, the AllStar Game tomorrow. Tony, Bucky made the team for his first AllStar team in 1975, your third season in the league, Bucky. Maybe you can tell our audience just the pride involved and how you felt playing alongside some of the best baseball players in the world in a game like that. What is it like?
Well, at that time when I made the AllStar team in 1975, it was the biggest thing for me, my first game I ever played in the major leagues was in Milwaukee. I'd never seen a major league game before, and then of course to make the All-Star team and go to Milwaukee and play with all the guys, the great players. It was just a tremendous thrill. And then I was doing a show earlier, and Mickey Mantle was my hero. And that year he was the captain of the American League team. And I had never met Mickey, and he was the guy that I was in the backyard growing up, watching the Yankees. I loved him. And, of course, we were going out to dinner, myself and Gossage, because he made the team that year also. And we were going to this restaurant, and I opened the door for them to walk through, and Goose kind of, stopped. And I go, what's the matter? And he goes, look. And I looked around the corner, and standing there at the bar was Mickey Mantle and Billy Martin.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow, man. I kind of there he is, the guy that I worshipped and idolized was standing right there, and I got a chance to meet him for the first time, and of course take some pictures with him the next day because he was the captain of the American League team. But it was like, there's this guy bigger than life, and all of a sudden he's standing right in front of me. I got a chance to meet him. But playing the All-Star Game that year was just tremendous. I got to go in, I think, in the seventh inning, and of course had the butterfly, scared to death, young kid making my first All-Star Game. Catfish Hunter was pitching, and it was just tremendous.
Wow, that's a great memory. And again, We're talking with former Major League shortstop and World Series MVP Bucky Dent. 77, Buck, you're traded to the Yankees. Of course, they're already a very good team. When you first heard about the trade, give me your thoughts at the time. You're leaving Chicago for even a bigger city.
Well, I tell you what, it was the thrill of my life because, that's the team. I've watched them play in the World Series the year before in '76. They got beat by the Reds. And then, actually I heard about the trade in the spring because one of my closest, dearest friends worked for 60 Minutes, and he was doing a story on George Steinbrenner, and he called me one night in the spring and said, hey, the rumor has it that you're going to be traded to the Yankees. And I said, get out of here. And he goes, no, he says, they're talking tonight, stay home. Well, this happened for about 30 straight days, and I said, don't call me anymore, Well, last day, we were getting ready to go play Toronto. It was their first year in the American League, and I went back in to get my bags, and phone rang, and I picked up the phone, and I hear this crowd and this voice, and it goes, Bucky Dent, and I go, yeah. He goes, this is George Steinbrenner, and I go, get out of here. And he goes, no. He says, I have a trade to bring you to New York if you'll sign your contract. And Nick Bonicani was my agent, so I called him up real quick, and they made the deal, and the next thing I know, I'm walking in the locker room at Yankee Stadium just like on cloud nine because it was just one of those magical moments where, you dream as a kid and all of a sudden it's there, and it's amazing.
That's and we're up to 77, Tony. Take over.
and Bucky, the amazing thing is, big secret, you walked into the Bronx Zoo and Billy and the craziness and Thurman and Reggie and the day-to-day drama. And, what was it really like from one that was there? I remember you just being this very stable presence saying, I want to be a Yankee. I'm pleased to be a Yankee. I'm happy to bat ninth.
That's true. That was it. I wanted to be in New York. I got traded over there. I missed the fireworks in spring training where, Reggie had said something about he was a straw that stirred the drink with, Thurman and all that. So I missed all that. So when I got there, I was just trying to mind my own business, and I kind of tried to stay out of all of that. It didn't involve me, and I kind of minded my own business. But, the one thing about that 77 team, even though all the stuff was going on with the Bronx Zoo and Son of Sam, shoot people and stuff like that, and everybody getting scared, was that team was phenomenal because nothing bothered it. It was a bunch of characters that had tremendous character on the field. And when they went on the field, they went out there to beat you. And that was all as important to any of us was winning because, we wanted to bring a championship back to New York, and we did.
Yeah, you look at the roster.
We've ever seen.
We were checking the roster before, Tony, and it was a bunch of talented guys. And, of course, then your first full season, 78. Let's just fast forward to the game, Bucky. It's the 163rd game. The Red Sox and Yankees finish for a tie. They flip the coin. You got to go up to Fenway. People forget that the Yankees were down 2-0 when you hit that 3-run homer to give the Yankees the lead that, Tony, of course, they would not relinquish. Here you are. You had hit just 4 home runs all year. Facing Mike Torres, and you've been asked it 1,000 times, as soon as the ball hit the bat, what did you think?
Well, I thought I hit it really good, but I didn't know if I had hit it high enough to get over the wall. So I never saw the ball go out. I was rounding first base when the second base umpire signaled it was a home run. And, I remember, being excited because we were ahead, and rounding third base, I'll never forget, around the third going home, how quiet Fenway Park was. You could hear a pin drop in there, except for, the Yankee fans that were cheering, and I touched the plate. And I could see Steinbrenner and were excited, and the guys were out of the dugout. But, the only thing that went through my mind at the time was we were ahead. We had 3 more innings to go,
right,
and they had a great offensive team, and anything could happen. So until it was all over with, I didn't really realize, how big it was going to be and what a great moment it was.
It was huge, and I was talking before the show, Bucky, I called a couple Red Sox fans that I know that live in Massachusetts, where they were at the time. They were able to tell me exactly where they were. and what they were doing.
And Bob and I had the same discussion.
We had the same. I was a freshman in college, Bucky, and again, I was in a dorm room watching on a small black and white TV. It was like it was clear as day, and it was just such a magical moment in sports history. And again, just to be able to talk to you about it is phenomenal. Tony, question?
Well, sports is a game. Sports, I've always said, is a game of moments, and the thing about that game is like what you just said, is that when you say to people that watch that game, Boston Yankees 1978, it flashes in front of their face exactly where they were, what they were doing. It was like the whole world had shut down, because it doesn't happen very often with those two teams, the two cities, playing each other in a one-game playoff for all the marbles. It's not like today, where you got a wild card, and a division winner, and, there's another, they got a second one. You had to win the division. You had to win it outright.
Right.
And back then, there was some really good teams. You had the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Orioles were always really good.
They
then
were.
you had, in the other division, you had Kansas City, who was always good. So, there were some really good teams back then.
It was great, and again, that was a 100-team win once they got through that game, and it was just a very special moment. I'll never forget it, and Tony, it was the people I've talked to, that even the Red Sox fans, as disappointed as they were, they say, "Wow, it was something I would never forget." But
they gave me a middle initial that stays with me today.
Well, I told a few people today. Yeah, they told me, but Bucky is one of those few that has an expletive in his name, as
There you go.
But that's as the years went by, all these people were and we've heard it from them. They were very kind, and they actually noticed, and we talked about it just prior to coming on. Also, Bucky, is it true that when they put the monster seats in Fenway, that you were sitting in them that first game in almost the exact place where you hit that home run?
No, it wasn't the first game. It was actually the 25th anniversary of my home run.
Okay.
They wanted to do a story for the New York Times, and I was managing Columbus, and we were playing at Pawtucket, but we had an off day. And Clemens would have been going for number 300 if he hadn't lost the game before. So this guy wanted to do an article sitting up on the wall because, if he'd have told me in 1978 they were going to build seats up on that wall 25 years later, I'd have said, you're crazy. But I tell you what, it was a great seat, and a fun time that night. And actually, the guy that was sitting next to me was a kid that sold the seats to the gentleman so we could sit up there. And Garcia Perro hit a home run in the first inning, just a little bit left of us. We almost caught the ball. But the kid sitting next to me was one of those kids that, we started talking, and he looked at me and he goes, I was 13 years old when you hit that home run, and you ruined my life.
Great story. That is just so great that they made that happen. Tony, question?
Yeah.
And Bucky, this is my oxymoronic cat-killing curiosity. When you hit the home run, you borrowed the bat from your teammate, Mickey Rivers. And I remember the whole scene where you had politely taken it from the bat boy. Where's that bat today?
That bat, actually, I was doing a tour. The last time I was, the Yankees and Red Sox were playing, I was doing a tour with a group, and we went down to the museum, and one of the guys down there was telling me that actually the guy that bought the bat was supposed to bring it and lend it to the museum. I think Barry Halper got the bat because it was Mickey's bat, and back then we didn't think about, saving things. I did try to get the ball out of the net. My buddy called, but they had so many balls hit up there during batting practice, they just threw them all down, and we didn't know which one it was. But going back to the story about the bat, so when I was managing in 2005 in Columbus, I think it was, I got a letter from a gentleman saying that he had bought the bat, that I had the home run with, and if I wanted to come by and see it, he paid $64,000, I think, for it. And so when I was at the museum, they said that this guy was going to lend the bat to the museum. And I said, I'd like to see it, I'm going going to bring Mickey Rivers with me. And I said, what we're going to do is we're going to go in there, we're going to look at the bat. I'm going to look at Mickey, and we're going to say, that ain't the bat.
Yeah.
See what this guy says.
That is terrific. And as we talk to Bucky, our guys in the back are showing collages of various times of his career, including that historic home run on the screen. And that 78 World Series, Bucky, people forget also that the Yankees were down 2-0 in that series, Tony.
Yeah.
And then reeled off the 4 straight. You personally, Bucky, do you think the momentum from that home run really empowered you enough that just the momentum totally carried you through the end of that Game 6 and resulted in an MVP for you?
Yes, I think it did. I was struggling going into that playoff game, and so when I hit the home run, it's one of those things where you get in big games, and all of a sudden you get in that, what they call that bubble, where, the ball slows down, everything slows down, and you see the ball better, and, you just get in a groove where everything looks good, and you're swinging a bat, and you're finding some holes. But the 78 World Series was a phenomenal comeback also. Guidry pitched Game 3, and Nettles made a lot of great plays at third base, and, that kind of turned it. When we won Game 3, it kind of turned it for us. We came back and won, I think, an extra innings in Game 4, and then we won Game 5, and then went back. And, Catfish, I'll never forget, before we went out on the mound, he said, score me some runs tonight, and we're going home. And we went out and we scored some runs, and we did. We took home the crown. But there was a lot of guys that had good World Series. Munson, Brian Doyle filled in for Randolph at second base. He did a tremendous job at second base. So, I feel very fortunate and blessed that, I got named 78 World Series MVP.
Yeah, people forget Brian Doyle, Tony. 7
series.
for 16, hit .438. Of course, Bucky, 417, 10 for 24. Bucky, the only World Series game I've ever been to was Game 3 at Yankee Stadium, where Nettles made all the plays. And so if I was going to pick a good one, I did. I took the subway down, and I was lucky enough to get a ticket, but I'll never forget that game either. So.
Yeah, boy, that was a great game, and that's a pretty good one to have in the memory. And, look at the ticket, what it cost to go to the game that year. I think it was like $17 for a World Series game.
Yeah.
When somebody gave me one, I looked at it, and I was like, oh, my God, look at the price of this ticket, man. You can't even park $17 now.
Exactly. Again, we have a few more minutes with Bucky Dent. Tony?
And Bucky, they talk about the 1978 season with the Yankees, and when I was a much younger person growing up in the New York area, they said, well, the commentators would always say the Yankees won because of the fact that Bob Lemon was the manager and there was a newspaper strike that year. Do you think that had a lot to do with it? Was it a calmer clubhouse for the guys playing looser?
I agree with that. We had struggled. We were 14 games back, and then, we had a lot of guys hurt, and all of a sudden we started to put a run together. Catfish came back, won 5 in a row, and we had, the great pitcher, Ron Guidry. We knew every fifth day we were going to win with him because he was like 25-3 that year. So we just needed to get some consistency because we had some guys. I was hurt, Mickey was hurt, Catfish was hurt. But when he came back, Catfish, and we started getting people back, we started to get on a roll. But, I don't really think we could have won if Bob didn't come in and take over. He kind of calmed the clubhouse down. Plus the fact that the papers were on strike. They weren't writing anything negative. Everybody kind of took a deep breath and went, whew, we can just concentrate on baseball now. And I think that's what happened. Bob came in and said, look, you guys were world champions last year. You know how to do it. Just relax, play the game. And that's what we did.
Yeah, it was a special couple
time.
Seasons. Again, Bucky played the parts of 6 seasons in New York, and I think we touched upon this a little bit already, Bucky. Is it possible to explain to our viewers, what it was like to play basically in the same diamond where guys like Gehrig, Ruth, DiMaggio, Mantle, they were once present? I mean, did you ever have one of those moments where you maybe were by yourself in the stadium and kind of looked out and kind of could soak it all in?
time.
Wow.
Every day, the first day that I walked in Yankee Stadium with my bags, when I got traded over there, you hear them talk about, the ghost in the clubhouse and stuff like that. Well, it's true, because I put my bag down and I went like, oh my God, Ruth, Garrick, Mantle,
right.
Maris, Farrah, Allie Reynolds, all these guys, Bobby Richardson, guys that, you idolize, and all of a sudden you're there, and then you put the uniform on, and you have like out-of-body experiences all the time playing there. I mean, my first World Series, standing there waiting for Bob Shepard, all the flashbacks as a kid, where you dream of getting to that point where, you're at the height of your career, of playing in a World Series. You go, holy cow, and then Bob Shepard's getting ready to announce your name, you get chills, and you get those moments where you go, shoo, I got to pinch myself to see if I'm really here,
Yeah.
It is really, really special.
And then, of course, Bucky's traded to Texas in '82 for Lee Mazzilli, Tony.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Probably one of the saddest days of my career.
I was just going to ask you, it had to be a disappointment. You're going with all the success in New York, Buck, and then you end up in Texas, the heat down there, and everything.
Man.
But, it must have been tough.
Yeah, it was. We just come out of the World Series in '81. I missed the '81 World Series because I was trying to break up a double play in Chicago and I tore a ligament in my finger, so I missed the '81 series. But then all of a sudden, opening day, they make a trade for Roy Smalley. They traded Ron Davis for Roy Smalley, and I was in the sauna with Ron Davis when he got traded. It was just me and him. Mm-hmm. And they called him out, and he came back 5 minutes later. I go, what happened? He goes, I got traded. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I got traded to Minnesota for Roy Smalley. And I go, holy cow, So then all of a sudden, I was kind of like the odd man out because George had this vision of, power hitters at each position for some reason, and, it kind of forgot we had 4 left-handed pitchers. And I never understood the trade. It was the saddest day as much as the greatest day when I got traded over. That was one of the saddest days, getting traded to Texas.
Yeah, definitely we could see why. I mean, it was just a couple of years, but tough to leave with that kind of success and the history and everything. Tony, post-career maybe.
Well,
we're at that point.
Yeah, and well, actually, I'd like to back up just a little bit. And Bucky, when I study your career, you were under some of the most interesting managers and general managers, including one Mr. S by the name of Steinbrenner. You were there as a player and as a manager. And if I come to you and I say, George Steinbrenner, what comes to mind?
A winner. Guy that wanted to win, had a passion, had a love was for the Yankees, wanted to win, wanted you to do it the right way, wanted you to carry yourself the right way. He just, he had that passion for winning. And the one thing about Mr. Steinbrenner, when you play or work for him, right up front what the ground rules are. The basic ground rules are, you do it my way, we're going to win, and that's it, the bottom line. You don't win, you're out of here. Take, for instance, Dick Hauser, 1980, we won 103 games. Yeah. You got beat in the playoffs, and you wound up getting fired, So you did the ground rules playing for him, but I enjoyed playing for him, and I love playing for the Yankees.
And Bucky, before we let you go, I got to share this email I got today. We had a guest on a few weeks ago, Judy Johnson, who wrote a book called "Watching the Game." It was from a female perspective, and she grew up a Red Sox fan. And she sent me this email today. She said, "My son Will did a couple of high school trip to Bucky Dent's baseball school down in Delray Beach several years ago. This is with a North Andover, Massachusetts school." She said the kids had a blast. And then she actually included this excerpt in her book about down there. She said, "When I walked on Bucky's field on a warm evening in spring, the moon was rising and a game was about to begin. While the home team gathered near the backstop at dusk, I opened the gate near the first base line, walked across the shallow outfield and toward the scoreboard. There's a sign on the gate that says authorized practices and games only, not for personal use. But I ignored that sign and trespassed on the field moments before the first pitch, and I got real close to the scoreboard. As I left the field under the lights and the rising moon, a youth coach called out to me, 'You must be a Yankee fan.' Happily, I sang back, 'Nope, I'm actually a Red Sox fan.' And then she said, one could do worse than hit a game-changing, season-ending home run. One could do worse than make youth baseball available to all kinds of kids, including New England boys who ache to feel the warmth of spring and yearn to travel far from home. You could do worse than remember one of the happiest and most important moments of your life by building a field where young kids can dream their dreams just as you once did. Everything came true. One could do much, much worse. That was from Judy Johnson. That's in her new book, and I thought I'd share that with you. That I guess your baseball school was, that area of that field was shaped in as a replica of Fenway, correct?
Absolutely. Actually, we built it, and I think we finally built it in 1988. We got it done, and that's exactly why we did it. You know, I'm no longer at school. I'm not a part of it anymore for the last 3 years. But I'm thinking about starting another one. But that's why we did it. We came up with the idea that, and I talked to my partners that I wanted to build something. They were going to redo that field, Delray City, and I said I want to build something where kids can get the feel of what it's like to play on a field like that and have a wall. And they may never play in the big leagues, but they might get that flash of something that carries them the rest of their life by playing on this field where they can look out there, possibly hit one over the wall, and get that same feeling. That's what we tried to do. And I called Mrs. Yankee, and we got their blessings, and they said it was okay to do it. And so we did it, and it was like something very, very special for the kids, and that's what it was for.
Yeah, and she was so thankful, and you know, you could tell the emotion in the email when she wrote. Tony, final question for Bucky.
Yeah, Bucky, any thoughts about getting back into professional baseball in some capacity?
You know, I've thought about it. You know, my last year I coached in Cincinnati. I was bench coach for Jerry Aaron, and you know, when both of us got let go in '07, my twins were athletes, and my son got a scholarship to play at Florida. My daughter got a scholarship to play softball at North Carolina State. And I felt it was time. I've been in baseball 38 years, and I felt it was time to spin and, you know, be a part of their careers and help guide them. And I didn't want to miss any of their games. So, and I was lucky because my son got to play in a College World Series 3 times. My daughter played in the ACC tournament 3 or 4 times. So, you know, I don't regret it. Sometimes I've thought about getting back in the game. There's a lot of difference now in the game as far as, you know, with sabermetrics and things like that. And really, I was one of the first bench coaches that had a computer that did all that stuff when I coached for Joe Torre and for Johnny Oates in Texas. So, but it's really changed now. But someday, I might try and get back in the game.
And I definitely had that.
Love to see you.
As you could see, Tony, in my notes, I had the notes. His daughter Caitlin and his son both played at the college level, and definitely want to mention that and wish them well. Bucky, I mean, I want to thank you on behalf of the both of us for giving us some great memories, being part of our upbringing and our baseball memories, and truly an honor to speak with you, and maybe down the road we can do it again, but you've been very, very kind with your time and cooperation and booking with the show, and please stay in touch, and our best to your family.
Take care, buddy.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on, and anytime, guys. I love talking baseball.
Okay. Thank you, Bucky.
Thank you, Bucky.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.